As I said in my State of the City address, we have been fortunate in Albuquerque. The last 6 years in Albuquerque, we've had the actual lowest crime rates, the FBI Part 1 crime rates that we've seen in modern history in Albuquerque. Last year, we had the lowest murders on record that we have records for, and that's good news. But this year, in 2015, the year we just finished, murders were up from 30 to 46. Now, compared to the 56 that we had the year before I took over, that looks like an improvement. If you look at the 4-year average, we've had a lower than average murder numbers for the last number of years, but it was tough last year. And when you're a family member, if you're Lily Garcia's parents, or if you're Steve Gorecki's daughter, or if you're Jaden's mom, or if you're, if you pick any number of these high-profile incidents we had last year, the community, the citizens, are demanding that we do something better in New Mexico. And I'm going to be really honored to be on the floor of the House next Tuesday with Majority Leader Nate Gentry. Majority Leader Gentry tells me that Lily Garcia's parents will be there with us, with him, and I'll be their guest, or his guest as well, and Jaden's mom will be there as well. So there's a lot of emphasis on this, and I think for good reason. So from my standpoint, I have 2 goals in mind. Number 1 is we want to keep our community safe. And number 2, we want to make sure our officers get home safely at their end of their shift. And thirdly, we want to make sure that people who are living in crisis in our community, particularly those with mental health crisis, have the tools and resources they need. And for that small percentage of individuals in our community that suffer with mental health issues and who also have a propensity to do harm to themselves or others, I think one bill in particular is going to be significant for them. So as I go through the list, yesterday we had a press conference on return to work. We have a shortage of police officers in Albuquerque. You heard Secretary Farrat yesterday stand right at this podium and tell you that it's not just an Albuquerque problem, it's a systemic problem around New Mexico, and it's a systemic problem around the United States. So return to work. We have a bill crafted this year that we have an actuarial expert telling us will not hurt the pension plan. In fact, it may add to the solvency of the pension plan while adding experienced officers back to the front lines of police work. We've worked really, really hard. We've made a lot of compromises on the bill over the last 4 years, and we think we've addressed all of the concerns that people had, from solvency, from promotability, from the unions, from the actuarials, so that we can get part of what we need. It's not everything, but it's a big step forward. So we're really, really asking our legislators to support return to work. Chairman Larrañaga will be running the bill in the House. We'll start there. Senator Engel will be carrying it in the Senate. We need it. We really need it. We have a plan to get to 1,000 officers, and we have an expert staffing study that says we need 1,000, but we can't get there without return to work. And some of the other options that we have in front of us, if it doesn't pass, are not what I would call the best options. And we don't want to go there, so we're asking for the help. From the mental health standpoint, let's talk about assisted outpatient treatment. Some people would call it Kinder's Law, but that is not what Senator Papin and Representative Pacheco are actually putting forward. It's not a pure Kinder's Law, but it is assisted outpatient treatment. That means that someone in our community or around New Mexico who is suffering from mental health issues, who finds himself in mental health crisis, who at the time has a propensity to do harm to themselves or others, can have a court-ordered treatment for them to get them out of crisis. We have story after story in New Mexico and around the country. Kinder's Law was actually named after a young lady named Kendra who was pushed under a subway, I believe, in in New York or a major American city by someone who was in mental health crisis. And so it's important for those in our community. It's important for officers so they don't have to come face to face with someone who's in that condition and avoid the circumstances from that. But it also is better for the individuals themselves. I will be supporting the bill that Representative Pacheco and Representative Gentry have that's violence against police officers as hate crimes. It is House Bill 95. There's a lot of talk about who should be included in hate crime bills, and we just have to look at the news last week. The police officer in Philadelphia, somebody walks up and ambushes them and shoots them while they're in their car. We had an incident in New York City, and with the current environment in in policing in the current environment, just in general around the world. I think that peace officers should be included. If you commit a crime against a police officer and you do that because they're a police officer, that should be a hate crime. I'm going to be supporting a tougher three strikes law, which is House Bill 37, which is Representative Ream has. It will help keeping repeat offenders and violent criminals off the streets. It means life imprisonment for a felon that has been convicted of a violent crime on 3 separate occasions. New Mexico has a three strikes law, and the fact is it's not working. I don't believe it's ever been used in New Mexico. So we need to have a pragmatic three strikes law. There is an argument, and it's a reasonable one, that you can overswing on three strikes laws, and then you end up filling your jails with people that don't need to be there. That's not my concern in New Mexico. My concern in New Mexico is we're underswinging on our three strikes law. We need to tighten it up and make it tougher for a very small percentage of violent offenders, but we need it. I will be supporting the constitutional amendment for bonding. That's Section 13 of the New Mexico Constitution. There was a case, Walter Brown versus New Mexico. The Supreme Court came with a decision that said that limits now what judges can do to keep violent offenders in jail without bond. There's even some folks, I think there are even at least, well, I don't want to speak for the Supreme Court, but my understanding is some on the Supreme Court are actually advocating for this constitutional amendment. I believe Senator Peter Wirth's working on that. Primarily, I worked with Peter when he and I were both in the House together. I think that constitutional amendment needs to be passed. Then us as citizens will have an opportunity to vote on it next fall. I know basically what it will do is it will give judges more ability to keep repeat and violent offenders in jail without bond. People that you and I would look at, and any common sense person would say, we're afraid of this individual. We don't want this individual on the streets while they're waiting trial. I will be supporting anything that has to do with gang enhancement laws. There's several pieces of legislation out there to do that. If you commit a crime and it's involved with gang activity, I think we need to address that in a tougher manner in New Mexico. There will be a law, there will be a bill. It's actually House Bill 29. It is being sponsored by Representative Gentry and Representative Trujillo for enabling a teen curfew. I know you'll see a number of advocates in Albuquerque, family members that will be pushing for that. My understanding of that legislation is it will not actually set up a curfew itself. It will enable municipalities like Albuquerque and other cities to develop our own plans. If that passes, I am certain that our city council will want to work on some kind of a curfew situation in Albuquerque. I don't know what that would look like. I think it's a meaningful and important discussion to have. I will join our councilors in that discussion if the bill passes. We want to make sure that we do protect the liberties, the civil liberties of our youth, but we also want to give our officers the ability to help keep them safe if they're putting themselves in a position that could cause harm to them or a community. So once again, it's I can't really advocate for or against a specific set of guidelines for a curfew because that's not what this is, but I do advocate for enabling cities to be able to look into the situation. On the economic development front, I was at a meeting last week where Governor Martinez stated that she will put now we're switching from crime to job creation and opportunity. The governor has signaled that she will message right to work again, a very politically charged issue in New Mexico. But there are two things that are happening right now. There's a Supreme Court decision in the United States that's pending from a California case that has to do with can you force an employee to pay union dues if they're not members of the union. I don't know how that's going to turn out, but that's going to be an important case all over the United States as I talk to mayors around the country. Regardless of your thought process on it, it's going to be an important case. But right to work in Albuquerque, I can tell you, I have discussions with economic developers. I have discussions with companies. I talk to them about coming to Albuquerque, New Mexico. There's no question in my mind that the fact that New Mexico does not have a right to work legislation, while all of our surrounding states either have it or in the case of Colorado have a de facto version of it, is hurting our opportunities. It is stopping people from coming to Albuquerque and New Mexico with job opportunities. I do not personally feel that it is an affront to the unions. In fact, there are many studies that show that right-to-work states actually have increased union membership. So for me, personally, it has nothing to do with going against the unions. It has everything to do with creating jobs in Albuquerque. Unfortunately, it's become a political litmus test for many of our legislators, and they are being pressured on all sides, and it's a tough decision for them. But I can tell you, I believe it would make a big difference in New Mexico. In fact, just by not to get too long-winded, but by way of historical reference, there was a right-to-work bill, I believe, that hit Governor King's desk once, maybe at least once, maybe twice, in the late 70s or 1980, I believe. And the bill didn't get signed. I would venture to say that New Mexico would be a better place for opportunity today if that bill would have been signed decades ago. And I think it's time we get that done. From a capital outlay standpoint, our legislators will have an opportunity to appropriate dollars for anything from little leagues to community centers to road repairs, you name it. And that's an important process. What we've done in the city of Albuquerque the last couple of years is we've concentrated our capital outlay requests on public safety. We've had exceptionally good luck with Democrats, Republicans, across the board. Our 20 plus legislators in Albuquerque, we've said we need fire trucks, and they help us buy a fire truck or a ladder truck. We've had press conferences, you've seen them, where we've thanked our legislators for doing that. This year we're going to be in police cars was another one. This year we're going to be in the same vein. We're asking for two things, cars and cameras, and I'll explain that. We're going to hand each legislator this handout. We'll send it with you today. We're telling them that if you have dollars available to help buy a police car, it's about $41,000 to get a car that's upfitted. If you help us purchase that vehicle like we have in the past, we will ensure that that vehicle is used in an area command that's in your district. It's a bite-sized chunk, if you will. It's not asking for $1 million for one thing. It's $41,000 per unit. We've had our representatives. One year, I believe, Representative Gentry gave almost all of his capital outlay to help us buy the fire truck. But it's a bipartisan ask, and we're optimistic. The other thing, when I say cameras, it's not red light cameras. It is these camera systems that you see are mobilized on wheels. They have a tower on them, they're solar driven, and they have the surveillance cameras. I'll tell you why we're asking for those is because our citizens are asking for those. Some of our city councilors, I think Councilor Sanchez a couple of years ago, used some of his discretionary money to buy one of those cameras because people want them in parks. A couple of our murders that we've had this year, especially with juveniles, have been in parks. And sometimes neighborhoods will want you to put it there. Sometimes there'll be a crime outbreak in a neighborhood and you can put a camera there. They're on wheels, they're mobile, and once again, we're telling our legislators, if you help us buy one of these, it's about a $43,000, the police car is $43,000, it's $48,000 for one of these camera units. If they help us get one of those purchased, we can tell them that will be used often in their district. As required by APD. But we're allowing this to be community driven. When the community asks for extra security, that's where we take them. We'll use them for large community events as well. So we think they're two very reasonable, very pragmatic requests that we can make. So that kind of lays it out for you. I'll be up at the session. I'll be there for opening day. I will visit with our legislators, with the committee chairman. We are advocating strongly, as I said, for return to work. I will be sending a package of information to all 112 legislators today with a letter from myself personally requesting their consideration and support of return to work, especially when we can say to them that by supporting this, not only are you supporting the safety of your community, not only are you supporting the safety of your officers by adding rank and file and leadership in smaller communities, but you're also supporting and even enhancing the solvency of the pension fund. We think we have a win-win-win for them this year, and we think that it might allow us to bring back, Chief thinks maybe 30 to 40 officers. If it would have passed 4 years ago, we thought we could have had over 100 officers, but as officers stay retired, they move on in life. So we won't have as many opportunities, but it's certainly a lot.